Welcome, everyone, to the Scaling Smart podcast, where we bring together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators to discuss key insights, strategies, and experiences that have driven success both for themselves and their customers. I'm Billy Mitchell, your host, and today I'm excited to introduce a special guest, Michael Hamburger, CEO and co-founder of Easy, which is a digital marketing agency that helps small and mid-sized businesses grow through performance-driven strategies across SEO, paid media, social media, and full funnel optimization. Michael, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Billy. How about yourself?
Doing well. I appreciate you taking the time. Looking forward to this conversation. So just to set the stage for you and the rest of our audience, this podcast, we break down into three primary sections. We want to get to know you and your organization a little bit. We also are going to talk about the industry as a whole, which uniquely enough, both Michael and I own and run digital marketing agencies. So I think that's going to be a good conversation. Definitely want to hear about your ideal client. And then finally, kind of the meat and potatoes of the conversation, talking about growth and scale. Both, I think, in this conversation, let's gear that towards both our customers as well as your customers as well as your organization as a whole. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a great game plan.
Love it. All right, let's start off with the first one. Pretty simple. Within 90 seconds or so, let's get an overview of who you are, what you do, and why.
Yeah, right on, man. Happy to. Again, my name is Michael Hamburger. I'm the founder, co-founder, and CEO of Easy Digital Marketing, Easy Medical Marketing, and a co-founder of our education company, Bright Marketer. And essentially, from the Easy side, we help businesses build, grow, and scale through digital marketing systems that they're designed, Billy, to drive real, measurable results, especially in industries like healthcare, legal, automotive. We're a very bespoke, focused company on one side. And then on the legal and the healthcare side, we're productized, so things are just, assembly line. But the reality is I got in the space back in '04, so call that 21 years ago.
Wild.
I had a full afro back then, by the way. And it really happened. I was introduced to Google AdWords by a mutual friend. And he showed me how the AdWords platform worked for a business I was involved in. And I quickly realized that, man, this industry was made for me. And so along the journey, I've realized that the power of data-driven digital marketing works. Since then, I've generated or been a part of over $1 billion in sales using this thing that Al Gore invented called the internet. And, my journey's been, it's one of extreme highs, extreme lows along the way. I'm sure most people can relate to that. So that's a little bit about myself.
I love it. So you've got me in the industry, I think maybe by 4 or 5 years. I think I've been in the industry 15 to 16 years. I can't do math that quick, but just as a follow-up to your intro there, both of us have seen this industry change quite a bit. So let's think back to the early days compared to now. What are some of the things that you can pull out that are like, this is a big difference? Like, this is one of the biggest changes.
Well, for one, Google was fairly new with AdWords. They call it ads now, but I'm still an old school guy. I find myself saying AdWords. My buddy came over to my house and he set up an AdWords account for me. And the same day I started generating 25-cent leads in the home-based business space. And I was getting $100 conversions that were equaling $1,000 sales. And that was back in, '03, '04. And then, different updates happened. Penguin, this one and that one. And, so they started just kind of changing the rules. And it was also much easier to rank organically. The company I was with back then in those early 2003 to 2009, one day the CEO of that company called and said, "You're outranking us for every company name, every product, every position name. And you've got us beat. Can I buy the website from you?" And I said, "No, I'll give it to you. You guys will help me change my life. So I'll just give it to you. But just know this, the moment I transfer this domain to you, I'm coming for you again." And I did. So, the game has changed, as you've seen, right? We've seen, There wasn't really social media back then. I was on, what was the first one? MySpace.
MySpace.
Right? My first time back then, Billy, I was on Rise, which was a business, RYZE, it was a business kind of like now like LinkedIn. But my MySpace page was all business oriented. And then I set up Facebook in '09 because we had a kid. Our first kid was born in '07. And with us being out in Arizona and my family and her family being in Florida, Facebook was just that other site we set up so our family could see our kid. Boy, things have changed now with Meta and all the other things. But yeah, dude, you've seen it too. I mean, this is just
Yeah.
it's like moving at the pace of rocket ships doing, or more like the Millennium Falcon doing light speed.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And, our conversation before starting the recording about, you're starting in sales as well. The way I got into this industry was I was hired as an appointment setter, and it wasn't even a bullpen. It was just a conference room, and there was probably maybe 10 guys in there with our headphones, and we'd always be walking around calling businesses, setting appointments. And one of the things that I think has changed the most is back then it was shooting fish in a barrel. You'd call a business and be like, hey, I can get you on Google, I can get you, traffic to your site, I can get you fill in the blank, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, help me. All right, we'll set an appointment, and we had this glass. It wasn't even a whiteboard; it was just glass, and we just write the appointment date, and then the CEO would take the call, and it was fun. It was like exciting. It was really quasi Wall Street, environment. And now you have to be sophisticated. All businesses know what paid advertising is. They know what Google is. They know what Facebook and Meta is. And so you have to come to it with a much more sophisticated conversation as here's what we do, here's how we do it, here's how it's going to help you, and here's why, we can do it better than whatever is being done. But it's quite amazing to see how it's changed.
Crazy to see, and it's become way more competitive.
Yep.
I didn't start my agency in 2017, even though I've been in the space for forever. But it's become way more competitive. And as again, you and I were talking prior to turning the recorder on, unfortunately, so many people, clients or prospective clients in our industry that our industry serve, they come to us with a little PTSD. They've
Yep.
spoken to another guy, probably not like your agency, probably not like my agency, but they've spoken to someone who sold them an empty bag of goods. And
Yep.
so, we start off every conversation where, we want to find out, have you worked with other agencies? And when they say yes, then one of the questions we get asked, I had the CEO of a very, I won't say the name, but a very well-known international influencer who's written tons of books. And a COO was here in our office 3-4 weeks ago. And first question he asked me, he goes, Michael, I've hired 6 or 7 agencies in my time as a chief operating officer. What makes you different? And then, I'm like, I love that you asked me that question. And then I, start going through all of our data and how we do things, and what we do is our master marketing plan, which is really kind of our secret sauce. And by the time that, it was a 5 or 10 minute dialogue just on that one topic, by the time we're done, he said, okay, I see why you guys are different. I see how you're different. Yeah. And, I would see how hiring you guys would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes in sales calls, I'll use the joke that, anybody with a laptop in a garage can start a company like this, 100%. But they're not going to last very long. So yeah, 100%. Well, hey, let's.
You and I have a very similar style, because
yes.
I try not to be braggadocious. I don't never want to read my own press, but I will say things that will elicit people to lean in and ask a question. I was meeting with the COO of a large martial arts company. They have 1,000 different studio schools around the U.S. and his marketing assistant, he's here in Phoenix. His marketing assistant's down in Brazil. And I said to both of them, I go, hey, you want to see how my stuff works? I'm in the most competitive space when it comes to SEO, because we're the guys who are doing SEO for others. We're also doing SEO for ourselves. So you've got the holder of the black magic trying to do black magic for themselves and for someone else. And I said, hey, I want you to type in digital marketing Scottsdale and tell me if you see my agency sitting in the top 3 in that 3-pack snack pack for the Google Maps. And both of them said yes. And so that's kind of like, it's a soft flex. I say it to everybody, when we're talking about SEO and how we work. And when I go, look, here's a reality. We eat the dog food we serve, meaning we became dominant on the Google snack pack in early first or maybe early second quarter 2018. And since then, we've literally never been challenged or taken away, and we show up every time. And I go, oh, by the way, for that, just that little SEO, I get more leads because of that from my local area here than anywhere else. And it's, to me, I see a 480, 602, or 623 number coming in on my business cell. I'm like, it's either going to be someone spamming me, but the moment they start talking business, right? This happened Thursday. Guys calling me. He bought a new franchise here in the Valley. He lives in another part of the country. I said, by the way, where'd you find me? He goes, ChatGPT. I told ChatGPT, give me the highest ranked um, marketing agency in Scottsdale, and you guys came up number one. I was like, holy cow. I'm talking to my
That's
SEO
awesome.
team. I'm like, guys, we're now ranking number one in ChatGPT. Whatever you're doing, lean in and do
Keep
more.
doing
As
it.
you know, AI is going to change the game for all of us in this industry.
Yeah, yeah, which I have a feeling we're going to talk about here in just a second. So let's jump into your clientele.
Okay.
Give me, if you could, who's your ideal client? Talk to me a little bit about their pain points and what are you doing to address those?
Yeah, right on. Great question. So our ideal clients are usually growth-minded business owners or growth-minded people that are responsible for the marketing department. Usually they're in competitive verticals. They're tired of doing guesswork. They're tired of having people that just say, "Hey, we'll throw ad spend." That's my favorite thing when you talk to a client and they say, "Well, we worked with another agency. So how'd they take over?" Well, they said if we spend more in ads, we'll be able
Ugh.
to uncover things. And I go, that's the common theme I hear, but wouldn't you like to have a proven plan? And so whether they're a med spa, an attorney, a car dealership, or even a local service business, we meet them where they are, not where we are. So we lead in with our entry level SEO product, which is our boost system. And then if typically we'll also lead in with our flagship master marketing plan. And that master marketing plan, as I just alluded to a minute ago, I think it's a game changer. And so we follow the lean methodology, lean canvas model that was developed out of Silicon Valley. My business partner and our CMO, both these guys have done this for tons of clients before we linked up in 2018. And so we go through a plan. It's literally 4 to 6 weeks. We don't run any ads, Billy. We don't do any SEO. That 4 to 6 weeks, we create a battle plan, right? We understand baseline where they are today. Then we also look at where they want to go. And then we reverse engineer it along the way. And we look at every area, whether it's organic SEO, whether it's paid ads, whether it's CRO, the CRM, AI integration. But along the way, we don't just run ads, we build systems, we build them in infrastructure. So, we uncover the gaps, we find out where we can automate and implement automation. We capture a lot of first party data. We're very data driven, probably like your agency. Men lie, women lie, data don't lie. And then we scale using SEO, PPC, and all the other acronyms out there. But the reality is it gives business owners clarity, gives them control as results that they can see inside the data. And we have milestone and keys and KPIs all along the way. Because again, how do they hold us accountable? We hold our clients accountable. Did you add us to your business profile manager? Did you pay your bill? There's certain things. And when they have this PTSD of working with crappy agency after crappy agency, we say, look, we want to be accountable to you because, even though we're part of the Google Council and some of these other cool things, how do we make ourselves accountable to our clients? And it's really showing them, hey, here's that 360 holistic view. Here's what we're going to do. And it's no different than you got kids. I talk to my daughters. Did you take the trash out last night? It's a yes or no. There's no excuse. It's either yes or no, no in between. And for our clients, the same thing. It's not just about generating leads. It's did we build you a full system, full scale, and can we take you from point A today to where you want to go and watch those incremental, milestones along the way. And then as I shared privately, my business partner is a former electrical engineer who worked for Jack Welch at GE. So from an operational standpoint, I don't have to, birth that baby. I can focus on the biz dev side. It's a great transition and handoff when I go from the pre-sale, sale, hand it over to the team. My business partner and our incredible team takes over, and we take them through that master marketing plan. At week 4, usually, we present them with here's a potential invoice of what it would look like to build this infrastructure. Here's what our suggested ad spend is. Here's the pro forma based on real world, your CPMs and et cetera. Do you want to move forward with us? And a lot of times they'll say yes. If they've got another marketing team they've worked with, we just simply say, hey, we don't pride in authorship. We don't care. As long as you can build what we're asking for, we can keep moving down the track. But oh, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, if your current team could have done what we're suggesting, they would have already done it. So, hey, we're happy to work alongside. We're never looking to push anybody else's tower over to make ours look bigger. But along the way, it goes back to that Marine Corps ethos. Number 1 is mission accomplishment. We are obsessive about getting the job done. And then number 2 is take care of the team and then take care of the customers.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I like the way that you word it, but I think we have a lot of similar philosophies, and we like to have the mindset that we're assuming a seat at the table, right? We care deeply about the customer, their success, and we want to be a part of that, as a whole. For us, it's not when you said, the other agency said, let's spend more money. I cringe whenever I hear that, because oftentimes we're saying, hey, we should probably tone down our spend right now because, something's not working, or, there's clearly things that are working, but we've got some holes. Let's go ahead and just slow down. Let's plug these holes. Let's find the fix and implement. And then as we see success, let's grow. So I love the approach. I love the heart behind what you're doing. I think that's incredible. And clearly customers are going to be growing and being successful from it. So good on you for that. That's awesome. Let's dive into the industry. And I think both you and I can resonate with this. And we mentioned it earlier, but the industry is obviously, it's crazy competitive, right? 15 years ago or more, not so much, shooting fish in a barrel, right? But now it became, I would say maybe 5 to 7 years ago ish, kind of a race to the bottom, right? A commoditized service. So talk to me a little bit about your perspective on the industry and how, did you race to the bottom, or did you innovate your way to something unique? Sounds like maybe a little bit with some of your SEO packages, but yeah, how did you battle through a very competitive industry?
Well, it's a great question, Billy. Number one, we never raced to the bottom. So when I started the agency in 2017, I launched with very specific packages that were designed to show value and to really help people. I didn't start with contracts. And I said, hey, I've got to earn your business day in, day out, month after month. All I ask is a 30-day window to let us know if you're going to go a different direction. When I brought my business partner in August of 2018, we're both older guys. I'm in my early 50s. He's now a couple years older than me. But so when we met, call it 7 years ago, I was in my mid 40s. So thinking about our future, we kept thinking, at some point, if we decide to allow Easy to be acquired, being acquired with no contracts, there's no value in that. So we moved over to a contract methodology, which made a lot of sense. And then we moved up market. We have a running standard inside the agency that we don't lift a pencil for less than $5,000 a month. And it's good on paper, but with us adding this new low ticket, under $1,000 boost product, which is our SEO, that's something we launched 6-8 months ago. It's the first time we've ever had something that inexpensive, but it's designed really as a loss leader. It's designed as a trust builder, because this, we've talked about it already, but you're walking in somewhere and someone's got their shields up and they've got their sword drawn and their guns are ready because they've been lied to or misled or overpromised and underdelivered. So that boost product is designed really to move the needle in a really rapid pace. And then it's like, look, you don't have to gamble. Are we just some slick sales guys with silver tongues? No, but can we deliver results? Most agencies, they sell tactics. For us, we're here to deliver strategy and structure. And so, with our master marketing plan, it's like an architect's blueprint. It's a customized roadmap that's built before execution even begins. Just like what you said a minute ago, in that first 4 to 6 weeks, we're not running ads. On the rare occasion, We'll take a client on and we'll say, hey, yeah, we can start your Meta, your Google ads. We'll take over now. But that's a rarity. Usually we say, hey, keep those ads going, let the other people know that we're going to be moving in here. But again, we start looking at the roadmap before we begin execution. Then we take the 20 years experience of this battle tested framework that I've developed, my business partners developed. We're now integrating a lot of AI tools. We've got the proprietary systems like Boost, which has been a game changer. At the end of the day, we're not about smoke and mirrors. We're about transparency. We report with real-time dashboards. We don't use any of the really high fluff dashboards because I feel they can be manipulated. We're using things like Looker Studio, and we tie it into our instance of high level. We're using the analytics that are coming directly out of the Meta dashboards, because again, we're looking to focus on a lifetime customer value, not vanity metrics. Yeah, and to me, look, there's so many marketers that get hung up on vanity metrics. They're selling that to the customer, and the customer is saying, man, this looks good, but what does that mean to my dollar out, dollar in bottom line? And then, for me, being a Marine Corps veteran, we're very disciplined in the execution of our DNA. We're SOP driven. I worked on Cobra helicopters my first couple years in the Marine Corps. So if I was working on a helicopter in North Carolina, the standard operating procedure when I went out to 29 Palms, California to Camp Wilson, other than adjusting for the altitude, it was the exact same SOP for the most part. So for us, it's like, we can, not that we shift bodies in, bodies out, but client work becomes sometimes very, replicatable in what we do.
Yeah.
So we have a, multi-point SOP that we go through for a boost customer. There's 100 different points that they go through in those first 60 days. So for us, it's a unique approach. Sounds like our agencies are built very similar. A lot of our personality shines through on our side, and our people stay with us. They like us, but that unique approach, I believe, is the reason why our retention rates are much stronger than what you see as industry norms. I think I heard 9 months typically is the typical time a client stays with a customer. Those last 3 months on a contract are usually very painful. We've got clients in the non-medical space that stay with us 30 to 36 months. Our medical clients stay with us closer to 36 to 48 months. And the majority of our medical clients graduate out, meaning they're spending so much with us, we end up saying, hey, it's not a fun thing to do, but for what you're paying us in a month, you could hire somebody for a year for some of this. Why don't you spend the next 3 months, let us kind of take some of the stuff we do off our plate onto their plate. And that's been, it's good for the customer. It's not great for us every time. But, we're here to serve our customers, because at the end of the day, I'm a tough cookie. If I've hired you, I'm a tough cookie. So we just kind of treat our customers like their family and want them to have results. And, we get excited about their kids and all. The deal, man. If you're doing it long enough, you're meeting with a customer every week for an hour, you get to know each other, right? So anyway,
Well.
I'll yield back to you.
No, that's good. I love it. And you're absolutely reading the playbook, and it's good stuff. So, all right, one more question, and then I want to jump into the growth and scale. But I think that I have an idea of where this is going to go. But where's our industry going in the next 5 to 10 years? And I'm actually going to change that. I'm going to say the next 3 to 5 years, because I think 5 is a millennia away. So where are we headed in the next 3 to 5 years?
Automation, AI, and then first-party data domination. We were writing a bunch of stuff about third-party cookies. Google said they were going away. We got featured in some big publications talking about that. Didn't happen. Rise in ad costs. I had one of our clients in here the other day. He was talking about he bought a billboard in Phoenix. And I thought, oh, that's great. How do you quantify that? Did you get any attribution? Do you have a specialized phone number? Do you have a special website? No. I'm like, well, then how do you know if that's making sense? And I sold telecom back when there was this thing called long distance. And so back then we were selling 800 numbers. And I would sit down with a business owner and say, you're in Charlotte, Tampa, Atlanta, blah, blah. Every city needs its own toll-free number. Every different publication needs a toll-free number. And they're like, why? You're just selling toll-free numbers? I go, no. So you know which ads are working. So, same thing here, rise in ad costs, AI boom, first party data domination, all these things are making it so businesses can't wing it anymore. Like you need to see what the data tells you. It's like looking at tea leaves and wondering which ads are working. I run a baseline report for every prospect. And, I tell people, look, I'm going to give you this report. We value it at $997. If you'll give me 15 minutes, I'll give you this report. And what I always see is I see things where they have no idea of how how the ads are working. I look and I go, you don't have a Google Tag Manager, you don't have an analytics pixel, you don't have a Google Ads pixel, but you're running ads in Google. That'd be like, Billy, I don't know about you. You get in the airport at Austin, and the pilot says, hey, all of our control panels are down, and we can't see out of the windshield right now. But don't worry, people. When we get there. 5,000 feet, we'll turn the seatbelt sign off. Are you getting on that plane? Because I'm not.
No,
right?
Absolutely not.
Now, if you couldn't see out the screen, at least you can fly by a control panel, or vice versa, right? But so I see too many business owners or people that are running their departments that they're working off of emotion instead of actually off logic. And so we use as many tools as we can to say, look, this isn't me being subjective. When I'm looking at your page speed, yes, it's only 10% of your SEO, but it's the first 10%. And oh, by the way, don't take my word for it. In my ad, I'll actually show you, and we've been doing this, using the page speed over at Chrome for years, like 7, 8 years. It's like, don't listen to me, listen to Google. They may know a thing or three of what they're looking for because Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, Google loves Google. Remember that.
Yeah.
When it comes to their ranking, when it comes to their data, so we just, again, I think that we're going to see AI change everything.
Yep.
It's helped us raise our game just in the last year with our proposals, with our content generation, audience modeling, even some of our sales training. And then we have our own version of some software out there. We started using High Level in 2018 for our medical clients, and we leaned in hard. I'm a big Russell Brunson fan and have been long before he ever came out with ClickFunnels. I was buying he had the first evergreen webinar software I'd ever seen. This is before YouTube actually had high def or HD. It was like a 360, very clear video. And then I had to hire a programmer to crack his code so I could do HD video. But I'm seeing platforms out there that are evolving. AI's changing everything. It's changing workflows. It's helping customers. Like, when's the last time you bought a car and didn't use your phone to check prices and places? Well, our customers, our potential customers, are now using AI to understand what we're doing, hold us accountable, hold our feet to the fire. But it's also helping us on our side reduce costs, increase efficiency, and just really help us stay ahead so the clients win.
I love it. And yeah, I'm a Russell Brunson fan as well. And one of my favorite stories that he always tells is about his first in-person sales that's recorded and how it bombs. And he's just like the worst at presenting and everything. Every time I watch that, I start laughing. So it's a good one to look up. All right, let's talk about growth and scale. So I think both of us, but you specifically, we're going to have a unique perspective on this because we're talking about growth and scale for our customers, which we obviously have very sharp tools in our quiver to do that with our customers for, but also about growing our own agencies and stuff. So tell me a little bit about how are you acquiring new customers today? What's working, what's not working? And maybe a little bit about what kind of lessons have you learned over the past, several years in growing the firm?
Yeah, great question. I'd say our number one lead source are client referrals. Happy customers that introduce us to other people. We've got a small sales team that we keep it nice and tight. I do a lot of in-person stuff in the community. I'm on podcasts like this. We submit articles and do our own PR. So it's always, looking, and we look at it from a net win. Every time I'm on a podcast, every time I do an article, it's not for my own gratification. It's to help us win in the SEO game and top of mind, top of funnel. So I meet a lot of people in person. I'm a member of a very large networking group or mastermind called Speakeasy Mastermind. By the way, they've got one right there in the Austin market, Billy. If you don't know it, let me introduce you to these guys. They're incredible, and it's marketers that have built this mastermind for other marketers and people in the space. We do have as I shared at the beginning of the podcast, we're partners in a marketing education company. So we help educate people on whether they want a career path to work in marketing for as an employee, whether they want to go be a solo entrepreneur, influencer, an affiliate marketer, network marketer, or if they want to own an agency. So we've got really created that model, and so it's really worked brilliantly for us with Bright Marketers. My whole role there is we call them private label agencies. I am so passionate about helping my PLAs create results. Now we don't have a big markup on it, but it's not supposed to. But think about this: I'm educating basically a private label agency to go out into the world, find work. They make the lion's share of the profit. And then they bring it back and we do all the white label fulfillment for them. So we're basically educating people how to go out and, win with our education. So to me, the first lady I worked with, she's a realtor. She didn't even make half the calls, and, she's over in the small town of North Carolina, and first deal, she's making she's picking up a $36,000 check, and I've got to look at my board. She made $22,000 of that. And she's like, I didn't really even do anything. I go, you didn't have to, right? You teed up, you brought to us. We're now serving your client very, passionately about it, and you're walking away. Oh, by the way, is there anybody else that would want to buy an agency too, or figure out how to do that? So there's just little ways there. We actively partner with other agencies. for us, if as I shared, if for us, if I don't have it on my team, I will go find somebody that I've vetted, that I'm responsible for. If it's okay to mention names, my good friend
Yeah.
Adam Holland, who I've known Adam for 20 years. Adam's actually here in the Phoenix area. When we need a YouTube a client we're going to serve through YouTube ads, Adam is my go-to. He's the best of the best of the best that I know, that would personally be responsible for. Are there guys that are probably better than Adam? I dare say probably not. But he's somebody at the end of the day that I know is going to be as obsessive about delivering results as we are. He's a generally great guy. He's somebody that my family really enjoys being around, him and his family. But at the end of the day,
awesome.
he's a guy that I trust. And so, we bring business to him. He's brought us multiple clients along the years where he says, hey, and Adam's very, laser focused. Michael, I do YouTube ads. I don't do anything else. I do YouTube ads. You guys are a full suite agency. You've got full scope. I need a meta guy. I'm calling Hamburger over at Easy. Or I need a guy to do this or that. He calls us. So it's just, it's those active partnerships. I've got consultants that work with us. Other agencies. It just, the list goes on. But for us, it's collaboration. It's never competition. At the end of this podcast, I've got a good idea that I get to a point where I need a trustworthy source. I can go, I got my boy Billy over there right outside of Austin, and hopefully vice versa, because, there's so much opportunity in the world. And if we start to see each other as ways where we can make 1 + 1 = 3, my math ain't very good. I'm from Georgia. But then as we start to scale, 1 + 1 = 11. Right. And so how do we do that? What are you responsible for? What am I responsible for? What do we bring to the table? And then as we fixate on it, we got to remember, you win, your agency wins, I win, my agency and our team wins, but most importantly, our mutual client that we're serving together really wins. And so to me, that's just, it's a sport in itself.
I love it, dude. Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because I'm sitting here listening to everything you're saying. I'm thinking, man, I got to introduce you to this person. I've got to introduce you to this person. I'd like to have a call with you, talk about this. So, partnerships and referrals are one of my favorite ways to grow. Mostly because, well, there's two reasons. One, it's an easier sale, right? Just plain and simple. If I introduce you to somebody that I have a relationship with, that person just doesn't even really need to be sold too much. They already trust you, right? I mean, they want to know what you can do and how much it's going to cost. But warm introductions are very easy to close. But what's even better about it is now we're taking care of somebody who matters to somebody that matters to me, right? And that, I love that. And so a big part of our growth is that referral and partnership ecosystem. So I love it. And yes, you and I need to have a conversation after this. All right. So we're nearing the end. I've got one more question, then I'm going to do a lightning round with you, which is I never prep anybody for this, but I'm going to ask you a list of questions. You have to say the first thing that comes to your mind. But before that,
if you do that, by the way,
they're easy. Don't worry, we won't get in trouble in this one.
I'm just saying I'm on good behavior for once today.
That's good. Well, let's start with this. Let's go a little more personal for a second. What's one of the biggest challenges you faced, maybe personally, and how has it shaped you, and or how have you applied it to the way you do business today?
Strong question.
Yeah.
I'd say that one of the biggest challenges for me was walking away from high paying roles in the past. And really, Billy, it came down to one thing and one thing only. I've walked away from 3 careers or points in my career that on paper looked like incredible. Being on stage, people in the audience must have thought, man, that guy's got it all. But the moment my moral compass wasn't in alignment with the with the company or leadership, didn't matter about the revenue. I've got a funny last name, Hamburger, and it's my real last name. People ask me, "Is that your real name?" If I was come up with a name, I'd pick Smith.
Something other than that.
Something that wasn't Hamburger, right? But it didn't matter. The walking away from that revenue didn't matter because my moral compass wasn't aligned. And that really taught me that success without integrity is failure in disguise. Look, man, I'm a pretty social guy. I'm never scared to put it right out there for the world to see. But I lost everything in 2012 because I was willing to protect my name, my brand, my reputation, and my moral compass so I could sleep good at night versus hurting people that I just didn't agree with some of the directions that my partners were going. And so walking away from that, I lost a home. I lost both of our cars. So you see this version of me. This is the born again or rebirth version of success, the third or fourth or fifth time around. Um, was it an easy conversation to have with my wife? Was it? No, it wasn't. Hey, honey, by the way, I need the keys to your Escalade because the repo guy is going to pick it up today at 3. But don't worry, I'm going to go get you a used Volkswagen over at the Volkswagen dealership, and it's only used
You're
because
gonna love it.
President of America used it as a loaner car. That wasn't an easy conversation, and
Yeah.
we're moving to Florida 2 weeks from this Thursday, and so we're sitting at the table Sunday night, my wife and our two beautiful daughters, and we're talking about life and the next chapter in our life and this adventure that we continue to go on. And the kids are talking about, hey, we remember when this happened and we remember when that happened, and I think it was your Passat, Mom. And you just hear the stories and the viewpoints from them. It Some of it hurt as a dad, but a lot of it, even though it hurt, I knew I made the right decision. And
Yeah.
the really cool part, Billy, my kids are 18 and 14. To hear their viewpoint and to know what mattered most, and that it was Christ-centered decisions and family-centered decisions and decisions that were going to, shape our lives to this day. Man, I can tell you this: it sucked being one of the first Uber drivers in Arizona and one of the first Lyft drivers in Arizona. My kids were like, "Dad, you remember you had to have a pink mustache on your car?" Please don't remind me. But at the end of the day, all these years looking back in the rear view mirror of what those decisions were, they were all the right decisions. So it shaped how I lead today. It's all about not taking a shortcut, not lying to clients, being accountable. We show up with our values, our consistency, purpose, and we don't just give a little bit, but we give a gigantic bit about results, and it's not just about invoices. So, walking away 3 times, I do it again tomorrow. Even knowing the bittersweet. Man, I spent 18 hours a day in the front seat of a Prius. I went out and bought a Prius because back then in Uber, you talked about race to the bottom. I went and bought a little used Prius, and I was really ashamed and embarrassed to share that I was doing this. And I can tell you, there's not a lower moment in my life than I'm picking somebody up that knew me as a keynote speaker, not that many years ahead, is getting in the back of my Prius going, wait,
I know you.
Michael Hamburger? And I'm just turning back going, oh my gosh, thank you. No, yes, it's me. Or picking a buddy up from the casino that's been on a bender that night. He had no idea I was driving Uber. I'm rolling up in front of the casino here in Arizona, and my buddy's getting in going, what the heck are you doing here? But reality is I would do it again today, over and over and over again. Because at the end of the day, I care most about the direction my kids go in their lives. I'd like to leave a legacy, both in name and otherwise. And it's so easy to tarnish our names. And like you said, name Hamburger, man, you're not going to forget that one. If we don't talk for the next 20 years and we bump into each other, you're going to remember my name.
Absolutely.
Lose or draw. It's not the best thing, but it's a reality.
Amen, brother. Oh, I love it. Well, this has been really good. I appreciate your time and the answers. Want to go ahead and jump into this lightning round now, kind of land the plane here. All right. So just say the first thing, real simple, real easy, laid back, having fun. So coffee or tea?
Tea.
All right. What's one tool or system you rely on to keep your organization running smoothly?
Teamwork is our project management tool.
Love it. All right. Favorite book, podcast, or resource that's influenced you?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Best book I've ever read other than the Bible.
Love it. One bucket list item you've already checked off?
Jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
That's awesome. What's one goal you're still working on?
Number one, just put my kids through college, provide the life for my, just put my kids through college.
I love it. And finally, Michael, if our listeners want to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
You can find me on all the socials. Spell hamburger like you would at the McDonald's restaurant or In-N-Out Burger. Or you can find me at my company website over at ezzey.com, ezzey.com.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining this podcast. And for everybody else, that's a wrap of this episode of Scaling Smart. I'm your host, Billy Mitchell, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Scaling Smart Podcast, where we have conversations with real people who have real stories, who have learned how to scale smart.